It takes a lot of talent, work, and passion to build a plane. The same goes for a podcast. Tireless hours go into crafting each and every episode just for you, to take it off without, so it can take off without a hitch. Such effort, unfortunately, is very costly, and that is where you can come in. If you want to help us follow our passions, or if you just want to help support people who are trying to make their dreams happen, then go over to patreon.com/evacstation. For just $1 a month, less than the cost of your in-flight Wi-Fi, you can help keep our show on the airwaves of the internet. Don't let our dreams crash and burn by going to patreon.com/evacstation today. And now, on to the show. Which would you choose? A world with the after credits cast, or a world without? We know which one we'd choose. We are Giovanni, Caprian Metters.
I hope you warmed up before you stretched that far.
That was a hard one to get. You had no good ones in this one. Likewise, I didn't have very many good ones either, but I am A. Jiro Waseska. Yeah, AJ. Yeah, there we go.
I got it.
And the intro song this week was Flight of Icarus by Iron Maiden.
Nice.
I think that's the most fitting song I've had so far. And this week we are talking about the second to last, the penultimate, you might say, Miyazaki film, The Wind Rises. And I'll talk some sugar about this one here in a little bit, because I really do enjoy this one quite a bit. But before we get too deep into it, Ryan, what you been watching?
So, I actually have something that I had watched and completely forgot to mention the last time that we mentioned this when I was mad because I was so woefully unprepared. Turns out I had prepared and just forgot about it. I took the time to watch the Jumanji sequel.
Wait, you mean with The Rock? Okay, I want to hear your thoughts, because I have thoughts about it too.
I am mad that movie was as good as it was. It had no business being as good as it actually was. It was self-aware. It did the tropes really, really hilarious. I mean, Jack Black deserves a fucking Oscar for that movie, because there was no point in time that I did not think he was a teenage girl. He played that role to a fucking T.
When they told me what he was going to be playing in that movie, I thought this is going to be the cringiest performance ever. He delivered really fucking good, so kudos to him.
He killed it. He absolutely killed it. Yeah, that movie had no business being that damn good, but you all should actually see it. And they actually worked in a Robin Williams tribute, and I was really happy that they did that.
I wonder if it's as good as good a tribute as the Breath of the Wild tribute I heard about.
Oh wait, what? I didn't see that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it myself, but according to a podcast I was listening to, they did a tribute to Robin Williams in the Breath of the Wild video game, which makes sense considering he was a big fan of the game, and he even named his daughter Zelda. So I mean, I could see it happening.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, that's really good. That's a great movie. We saw that actually this past holiday season, because I think we rented it, and then I think we bought it because we found it for cheap. And or did we just buy it for cheap? Either way, we have it. And so she wanted to watch it. I'm like, okay, I'll watch it with you, because she'd seen it in theaters before with a friend of hers, and she's like, you gotta see this is good. I'm like, okay. And I had a good time with it. It was fun. Definitely not what I expected, and if you had any reservations about Jumanji, the remake, reboot, whatever, I think that the full title is Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it is. It is. And guys, I was among the purists who was
this whole podcast was.
As soon as it was announced, I was like, how dare you disgrace Robin's memory? It was so close after he passed too, which was like really fucked up.
Well, back when we were called the Game Bane or the Three-Way Podcast, or whatever it was, we actually talked about that when we were first announced. We all thought it was a terrible idea, and yeah, I'm glad to admit I was wrong. I like it when I can do that.
I was too, and I was blissfully wrong. It was a lot of fun. You guys should check it out if you haven't seen it.
Absolutely. As for me, I didn't really watch too much more than I usually do. I did play a little bit more of Horizon. I think I'm currently going through a stint right now where I am just kind of cleaning up collectibles and gathering up resources to finish making like the equipment bags and shit. Fishing is fucking annoying in that game. Like,
fishing's not great.
So many things take like fish parts, and like I'm thinking to myself, couldn't you just give me a fucking fishing pole like in Zelda? That's so much better than having to like fucking shoot them from a distance and swim out to get it. It's dumb. But aside from that, though, I am reading more of My Hero Academia. I am currently on, I'm going to bring up the page real quick, chapter 174. I'm 20 away from catching up, I think. Or pretty close to it.
Oh, shit!
Yeah,
dude, you're blazing through.
So, I'm at the part right now where they introduce... Have you read any of the manga at all?
Yeah, dude, I'm current.
Okay, I don't want to spoil anything for you in particular. So I'm at the part of introducing Gentle and... What's her name?
Gentle! And then Love Lover. Oh, God.
Yep. So they've just introduced them, and I don't care for them, but I'm hoping they grow on me soon, because I like the general concept, but they're just not doing it for me yet.
Just wait for it. It is meant to be a slow burn, but just wait for it. God damn. Gentle. That man is beast. Oh.
Also, shout out to Bakugo. I didn't like him at first. He's grown on me. He's had a few good moments in the recent chapters where he's like, okay, he's not a complete idiot. He's got some intelligence behind him when he's not pissed off at everything. I like that.
Don't you love it? Don't you love it? They take these like standard fucking shonen tropes. Like here's the moody edgelord who's super pissy at everybody, but is also like a natural genius and shit, so nobody can really tell him off. They take that and then they develop it more. And then they flip all those expectations on their head. And then they build him into a character, man. I'll talk about that for an hour. So
I know.
It's good.
Yeah, but I can't wait to get caught up because then I'll have that One Piece and Dr. Stone is my rotation for now. And those are pretty good. Those are both pretty good too, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think I'll probably pick up Promised Neverland. I've heard that's really good. Yeah, I was watching Super Eye Patch Wolf on YouTube, and he was recommending that one as one of the top shonen ones. He really likes it, from what I gathered. And yeah, it sounds promising. It's one of the top ones in the Shonen magazine right now. So I figure, you know what, it'll be around for a while. Let's give it a look when I'm done with this one.
Cool. Nice. Nicely done.
Yep. And I'm also prepping for Smash Bros. Ultimate. I made a list of characters I want to train on a bit more in Smash Wii U. So when the new game comes out, I can kick ass with them.
This dude is practicing for the game.
Well, so here's the thing. I'm not good with a lot of the characters that are new in the Smash Wii U game, actually. I looked at the list of the ones that are out there, and I went over like how confident I feel with them. Maybe like 3 of the newest characters I feel confident playing. Almost all the other ones I can not pick up and be like, yep, I know what I'm doing. Part of that's because a lot of them were DLC as well, and I don't know the DLC characters much except for Roy, but that's because he was also in Melee, so I was really good with him in Melee. But I really want to get Bayonetta down, because I love the Bayonetta games, and if I can't play her, then why the fuck did I buy her? So I want to give that a fair shake.
Yeah, well, I was good with the quick and nimble brawlers, so like Sheik, Zero Suit Samus.
Oh, I could never
Cloud.
play them. I could never play them. My current mains, actually, I'll humor this little discussion here real quick. Why not? No, Smash Bros. Is my jam, man. I'll read it. So let me see. Where's my list at real quick? Smash. Here we go. So my current mains right now for Wii U, the 4th game, whatever you want to call it. Ganondorf for my heavy character. I love heavy hitter characters. Roy, because he's a boy. Let's see, who else do I got here? Rosalina, because she's just a very unique character with some cool-ass moves.
Alright.
And then my devilish little trickster, the Villager, is my other main.
Oh, fuck the Villager.
I want to train Sonic a little bit, too. He was actually one of my mains in Brawl, but he isn't as good in this one as he is in Brawl, and I want to get back to being decent with him, so... those are my mains right now. Villager is the one I pick when I want to fuck with people, because he's the low-key of Smash Bros. No question.
God. You're one of those.
Dude, fear the tree. Alright, I got a little more off the rails than I thought I was going to get, but hey! Let's get to this, the synopsis. Let's get to the accolades and important notes I got here. To you, it may be Black Friday. To me, it's still a SummerSlam. This week, I have 2013's The Wind Rises, the most recent film by Hayao Miyazaki as of 2018. His next film is not due until 2020. We'll see how that goes. This film grossed a total of $136,400,000 worldwide. The English cast includes, and Ryan, you're going to love this one, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Martin Short, Stanley Tucci, Werner Herzog, and Hollywood's latest power couple, John Krasinski and Emily Blunt.
Oh, man. Okay.
They had an all-star cast for this one, and it paid off pretty good.
That's pretty damn good.
I think it's getting a little quiet up in this place here. But before we get moving on, we have Oscars, or not Oscars, but awards. While this is another failed Oscar attempt, the film managed to stack 26 other awards. A lot of them are critic choice stuff. I'm not going to read all those, but I just don't think the Academy knows what a good animated film is, Ryan. I just don't think they do. Among those that did win, it received Best Animated Film from the Alliance of Women Film Journalists and the awards of the Japanese Academy, the Truly Moving Picture Award from the Heartland Film Awards, and 3 awards from the Tokyo Anime Awards, including Animation of the Year, Best Art Direction, Best Screenplay, and Best Voice Acting. That's some good shit.
Damn, okay.
Bonus fact for you. This is Hayao Miyazaki's 8th feature-length film, and he retired after it was made in 2013, only to come out of retirement for the supposed final film in 2020, before the Japanese Olympics. This would be his 6th time he's announced his retirement. After the first screening of the film, the director said that it was the first time he'd ever cried during a screening of his own movie.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yep. I got some stuff that I looked up that might make more sense of that if you were questioning why he might be doing that with this film. I think you're going to like what I found.
Alright.
Alright, before we get into the synopsis, Ryan, what are your initial thoughts on The Wind Rises?
So, my initial thoughts, I really liked the movie. I think the movie is a bit subtler in its in the message it's trying to convey this time around.
Yeah, that's fair.
As opposed to being a little open for it, which is fine. I guess what it didn't hit as hard for me on because it was so embedded in Japanese history, especially surrounding and leading up to World War II.
Absolutely. That,
as I am not a huge historian, a lot of that I wasn't able to kind of latch on to. It's just oh, and that becomes that, and that becomes that, and that becomes that. Oh shit! And I know who that guy is because he was part of the Third Reich or something like that. I don't know that off the top of my head, so I found myself having a little bit of a more difficult time to latch onto the deeper meaning of the movie. I was able to get a good amount of it, but it wasn't as readily accessible for me this time around.
And that's very fair. I think this movie is very dense and has a lot going on, but I think it works on all levels of what it's trying to do. And I will, without question, say that I absolutely adore this movie, and I cannot wait to talk some sugar about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. It surprised me how much I liked it. I was going into it thinking, okay, it's going to be another plane movie. He's got a lot of fucking flight movies.
He does! He does! There are a lot of movies about flying in the sky.
And I don't have a problem with that. I actually have a question about that we'll get to later in a bit. But I didn't expect a whole lot from this. And then when I came out, I'm like, oh man, you surpassed my expectations, Miyazaki. Well done.
Well, let's hear the synopsis that you've got cooked up for me.
Yep, let's see what we got here. Based on the true story, we meet a young Jiro, a boy with a vision, a dream to fly. Sadly, his actual vision does not permit him to fly, so he changes his dream, following in the footsteps of Giovanni Caproni, to build the best planes in the world. The first act follows him as a child to his first job as an engineer. During this act, he meets some nice women and helps them during an earthquake, the Great Kanto earthquake of 1923. Who never learn his actual name, but are enamored with him nonetheless. But he cannot stay, as he has to return to his studies at the university. The film jumps forward to his first days in the job at a company in Nagoya, Japan. His first attempt to design a plane, why did I write plan? It's plane. Come on, spell check. His first attempt to design a plane fails, and the company loses a contract. Jiro and Jim Halpert are then sent to Germany to learn more about planes over there. Which, as you all guessed, by the year is when Nazis started gaining influence over the nation. The students study the German crafts before Jiro is eventually sent back to Japan for an all-new fighter project. The new design also ends in failure. The company, not wanting to lose their best designer, send Jiro away on vacation to de-stress. While away, he reunites with Naoko, the girl he saved during the aforementioned earthquake, and the two get engaged in what appears to be a short time span. But time is a little weird in this film. They do skip around a lot and such. Catch is that she has tuberculosis and is given a limited amount of time to live. Jiro loves her anyway and stays by her side, traveling across the country to see her when things get really bad at one point. Jiro returns to work on another fighter project. This time, however, the secret police are after him. Probably because he forgot to call the city council to submit his standard end-of-date report regarding his engagement. He's forced to live with his short-tempered and short-statured boss while coping with the stresses of building a plane and caring for his ailing fiancée, soon wife. Before too long, the plane is finished and it flies like a dream, but during the demonstration of his new craft, Naoko passes away from her illness. At the end of the film, with another dream Jiro shares with Giovanni Caproni, at this point, World War II is over, and Jiro expresses his Zero Fighter expresses regret over his Zero Fighter and how the devastation all the devastation it caused during the war. Caproni tries to soften the blow of this by reminding Jiro that his dream was still realized nonetheless, and that his planes are, to quote, beautiful, cursed dreams. Naoko visits him in his dream as well and advises him that you must live, before she fades away. Caproni then pulls Jiro aside for a drink, ending the film and the dream. Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Man, this movie was deep. This movie was real deep.
It was really good.
It was really good. It was masterfully told. It's masterfully done. And I can, knowing the historian in you, I automatically knew this was gonna be your fucking jam. When I realized how much of it was couched in the Japanese history of leading up to World War II and telling a story around that, I was like, yeah, Aaron's gonna love this shit.
Well, here's the thing too. I wish Max or Robbie were here because I know they're both big on the history aspect too. Because I'd love to hear more thoughts on that degree of thinking as well. I looked into it before reading this, and I'm like, oh, it's based on a true story. I'm looking forward to checking this out then. It's my jam, too, because it's not straight-up history like we're taught in school. It's history from a different point of view. It's the history of the man who made the planes that started the Pearl Harbor incident. And that's a story you don't... if you go by pure American schools, you don't expect that to be a good story. You expect it to be a story about a horrible person trying to do a horrible thing.
Right.
And when you see the story behind it, you're like, damn, his whole life didn't go anywhere he expected, and that's tragic in a very real way. Definitely.
And I really loved the recurring theme about how, it's man's ever burning desire to fly, but as long as there are engineers to build that dream, aerial vehicles will inevitably become instruments of war, and so the dream in and of itself is cursed. It's like, if you don't pursue your dream, you'll die. But if you do pursue your dream, like, the odds of it being used to horrible ends are definitely up there. So it's like, what do you do? Do you refuse to dream, or do you chase the dream anyway? And looking into, like, what people like the idea that this guy was constantly just trying to make a beautiful plane that soared the skies and just fulfill his dream, leading up to making the fighter plane, like, in Pearl Harbor, is insane. But it's a wonderful story that I was glad I was able to hear.
Absolutely. And that kind of brings me to one of my questions I was going to save for later, but you bring it up, and I think it's worth mentioning. Do you believe people are cursed by their dreams and ambitions, or do you think that's what is all that keeps us going? Because I feel like there is a fine balance there, and a dream one has could become one's obsession. And that could, like fucking Ahab and the White Whale, for example. Like,
right.
A dream is definitely a noble thing to have, a goal to live for, but at what point where's the line where it becomes an obsession and it ruins your life more than makes your life whole? I think this film tries to tackle that a little bit, or it skirts that line a bit.
I think it definitely skirts that line, although I think the curse that he was more openly acknowledging was the fact that, like, if you seek to bring something into the world, it can, like, other people can take advantage of it and use it for their own purposes. It's like a dream only stays pure in your mind, but when you take steps to bring that out into the world's an imperfect place, and it can be touched by those imperfections. So I think that's what the movie was going for. In terms of whether or not we're cursed by our dreams, I think it's beneficial to the point where it stops. It starts detracting from your life as opposed to adding to it. Because I feel like having dreams and having it be able to motivate you to reach for grander and loftier heights is definitely it's a crucial part of the human condition, and it's one of the main reasons why I think humans are the dominant species on this planet, because we have these aspirations that keep us pushing forward and keep us innovating and keep us making new shit. But I think a lot of pitfalls fall along the way.
Oh, yeah.
Either not having the will to realize that dream and letting that dream kind of fester and, like, spoil your life, or on the opposite end of the spectrum, losing everything in the, like, unending pursuit of that dream and cutting out everything that makes your life worth living to attain this almost impossible thing.
I definitely agree. And I think that I have something I want to add to that, but there's a question I want to ask before we get to it. So I'll hold that piece for a moment, because I think, because what I have to say reflects a big part of this film that I don't want to touch on just yet. But no, I see where you're coming from, and I look at stuff like, for example, BoJack Horseman as a similar kind of thing, where he's a character who had big dreams and had big ambitions for what he wants to do with his life, but he is held back by his own doubts and anxieties, and I think that's another way to look at the whole cursed dreams and stuff, where you might have these goals and dreams, but do you have the willpower to see them through, and do you have the discipline to not let them take over? And I think that's something to definitely consider in this kind of line of question here a bit.
Absolutely. No, I 100% agree with that.
Going back to some of the earlier questions I have here. So, before you watched this film, were you aware this is based on a true story?
I was not. I went in completely blind. I was just like, this is the movie we're watching today. And as I was just kind of getting into it, some of the artistic things in the movie made me think that it was going to be kind of a fantasy movie. Like when you first
the earthquake gave me a hint there a little bit.
Yeah, like the earthquake with like it's like the crazy ass like undulation that the ground does was just like, all right, well that's supernatural. Okay, that's fine. All right, we're here. Or seeing the opening scene where young Jiro gets into a plane on his on his roof and just flies away, and I'm just like, oh shit, okay, we're setting this up. Okay, so planes are a thing in a lot of Miyazaki films, which is fantastic, and I thought that was just going to be the staple of it, but then it was revealed to be a dream sequence. So yeah, no, I didn't know going in.
Yeah, that sequence threw me off at first. I'm like, okay, this is going to get very fantastical here. And then it got back to the reality. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not opposed to a real movie, but let's see where this is going.
Yeah. Just kind of play with you back and forth. Just
yeah.
Take you on.
I love all the dream sequences when they had Caproni on screen. I think he was definitely a fun character to just have show up every now and then. Like, it was definitely It was a nice little bookend to each chapter, I think.
Yeah, I liked that. I did.
Okay, so next question I'm pretty sure you won't have a good answer for, but let's see what... I'm just curious. What do you know about the Zero fighter planes from World War II, if anything?
No. I don't know much about it. Would you enlighten me with some historical facts about this plane?
Well, I mean, this is the plane that bombed Pearl Harbor. I mean, this is the infamous one that made a lot of America's efforts in the Pacific fight rather difficult. So, yeah.
Yep, I caught that.
But I don't want to get into too much detail, Ryan, because I do have some trivia for you if we get to it.
Oh, man.
All right, next one.
Spoiler alert, I'm going to suck at this.
Maybe. Next one. So this is just this is a quick little opinion bit here. What are your thoughts on animated characters being shown smoking on screen? I know that in American cinema and TV, a lot of the times they'll censor out characters using drugs or smoking or drinking because, think of the children. But so it always throws me for a loop when I see it. And it was really prevalent here because a lot of the main characters were rolling up and smoking a bit. But what are your thoughts on that whole bit there?
Honestly, I've grown used to seeing it in anime and a lot of Japanese media because smoking is so prevalent over there, and it makes sense to see that. Now, if you had smoking in like a prevalent kids show or anime,
Static
and
Shock,
like a lot of it, then maybe not.
Batman Beyond.
Shut up.
All my 90s shows.
Yeah, but I mean, those characters like Batman Beyond, while it was a kids show, it was
darker and edgier.
Towards it was definitely aimed towards an older subset of kids.
They probably could have gotten away with it, actually.
Yeah, they probably could have. But like the only anime that comes to mind as being like very childish but also having shown cigarettes was Naruto, and the only reason I know that is because of Shikamaru Sensei.
Oh, right. Passed away. That bugged me a lot. Okay, so I'm going to derail real quick. So in the Naruto manga, when Shikamaru Sensei is killed, and there's this whole bit about him taking up the bad habit and all that while he's trying to get revenge for his sensei's death. In the censored manga and the censored anime, you just see his hands like in positions where he would have a cigarette, but there's nothing there. And it makes every panel that doesn't have it look really awkward and weird. It's like it's just fixated on his hands for no reason. I'm like,
so how the fuck does Shikamaru kill Dadan?
He throws the lighter instead. Which makes no sense, because I thought he wanted to keep the lighter.
Boo-hiss.
Yeah, now listen, I understand, America, you have a thing against smoking. I agree, smoking is bad. But it's a fictional character, and he's honoring his add his sensei who was a smoker as well. It's thematically relevant. Don't touch that shit. It was just there for the sake of being there. I would say, yeah, censor it. Sure, it's not needed. But it is literally part of the character growth. As bad as it is, it's part of the character growth. Leave it in. Jesus. Anyway, back to...
This has been Aaron's soapbox.
Back to Wind Rises. Okay. Miyazaki appears to have a focus or obsession with flight as shown in his movies Kiki's Delivery Service, Castle in the Sky, Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind, Porco Rosso, and now this. What do you think this says about him or his style of film?
Well, I think from a technical standpoint, it gives a lot of opportunities for those gorgeous panoramic landscape shots that you love seeing.
Kiki was so good.
I mean, it's just it provides a lot of opportunities for him to flex his artistic style in those, which I am not going to be mad at in the slightest. But I think it also taps into a base human wonder for flight, because I mean, many kids when you're growing up, if you ask them what superpower they'd be like, I want to be able to fly through the sky. I feel like that's a very normal and quintessential part of human wonder, like our fascination with flight. And to be able to fly through the sky is a wonderful thing that is really the stuff of dreams. It's only our shitty materialism and war-fueled economy that turns those things into military advantages. So I like seeing that the basis of this movie is it comes from a dream. It comes from a place of wonder, and one man going to pursue that dream. And it alludes to, but doesn't focus on the fact that dream became a nightmare for so many American citizens. It focuses on the guy and his dream.
Well, arguably it was a nightmare for some of the Japanese people, too, because I imagine as much as they were told they have to defend the honor of Japan, I imagine a good number of them didn't really want to, kamikaze their planes on Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
I agree.
And just as a quick segue, when his friend who was designing the bomber mentioned that they have to go 1,300 miles without stopping for fuel one way, and he has to design around that, I was just like, holy shit! I forgot about that line.
Oh,
I heard that. I was just like, oh, that's Pearl Harbor. All right.
Yep.
Okay.
But no, I agree with you. I think Miyazaki's fixation on flight is a jump into the whole joyous, happy, childhood wonder that you mentioned, and I think that it really does give his films a sense of just unbridled joy and untapped potential that so many other films fail to really reach up to. Not necessarily these anime films we've been watching, but just movies in general. So many films that I watch are grounded and, so many films I watch are grounded, they just take place, in, on an island or, in a city or whatever. There's no flight, there's no magic, there's nothing to it. And while I get you can't have that for every film, I think this film definitely is that rare bit that you get to see, and it works so well here. And I wish there was a way you could get this kind of magic in live action. I don't think you're going to get it to be this good looking. But I think overall you make some really good... He makes some really damn good landscapes and really good, just animations through, characters flying through the sky. It's just so brilliant. And I wish there was more of this we could get. It's so good.
Man, I will argue that Avatar, James Cameron, not fucking Shamalama Ding Dong, I would argue that Avatar catches some moments of that wonder with the landscapes of Pandora and just getting to see Jake and Nayade actually fly around on their banshees. I think that captures a bit of it. Not to Miyazaki's extent and just the pure joy of it.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it gets some of it in there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely true. I just think it's such a rarity, though, in live action. I think
it is very much a rarity.
I think it's because it's so expensive to try to make that. But, man, when they do it, though, it works really good. The one that I can think of, again, not to Miyazaki's level, but Iron Man, when he flies for the first time, and every time he flies, it's just so cool to see him in the sky flying around and be like, yeah, I fucking did it. Woo! Can I go watch Iron Man again? That was fun.
That was super good.
Okay, let's see, next one. Okay. I don't want to do that one just yet, because that's a pretty deep one. Okay. At what point were you fully aware that this is prior to World War II, and when did you connect the dots to how Jiro's fate was going to go? I think we touched on this a little bit.
Yeah, I think it was made really apparent when they sent him to Germany.
Yep, that was when it clicked right away for me.
That was the moment. I was just like, oh, it's one of these. Okay.
All
right.
And then they actually did name drop the Nazis at one point. I'm like, yep, I was right on the money. Without question.
Oh, Mr. Hitler's government? I'm like, oh shit. Here we are.
Yep. Okay, let's see what I got next.
I have a question about that dude from the resort. Like you're probably gonna like get to it later, and I'll hold it. But
no, go ahead. What do you got?
I mostly just want to know who the fuck he is. I feel like he was prominent, and he was name dropping some stuff, but I wasn't catching it because I am shit at history. I know he was German, and I know he was referencing how some crazy shit's about to go down with Mr. Hitler's government, and he kept saying about how like things are gonna blow up, and Japan's gonna blow up, and Germany's gonna blow up, and I'm like,
I didn't think about that too much. Let me look it up real quick, actually, if you want to vamp a little bit for me here.
Yeah. Well, guys, if you while Aaron's looking that up, if you want to get in touch with us, or just laugh at how horribly inaccurate we are in our historical thinkings, you can always reach us at our email station. That is at our email station. Wow. Our email address, which is evacstation@gmail.com, because I can't do a plug to save my goddamn life.
Okay. Let's see. So I think he's just a character in the film. I don't know if he has any actual...
He was just a real creepy dude. A real creepy German dude who knew far too much.
His full name is Hans Castorp, and he was voiced by Werner Herzog.
Huh.
Yeah, just give any information on the wiki as to whether or not he has any relevance in history at all. Let's see if I can look up his full name real quick and just see if that brings up anything. Let's see, Magic Mountain novel. What? Let me see this real quick. So, it brings up something called Magic Mountain. Let's see here. So I think he's actually... Okay, so he's named after the protagonist of a book called The Magic Mountain, which looks like it's a German book. But beyond that, I don't know much. I'm not going to spend a minute here to read everything about this book because we have a podcast to do.
Of course.
The plot summary does start off by saying the narrative opens in the decade before World War I. So I imagine he was around for World War I during the German bullshit there, and then was around for seeing the Nazis grow, and that's when he was like, oh, probably shouldn't stick around for this shit. I'm out of here. Which, that's fair. Okay. So let's see, my next question. Let's see, so we did that. Okay, so going off World War II, I think this is actually a fascinating topic here. So Miyazaki has gone on record saying it was, quote-unquote, foolish arrogance that got the Japanese tied up with the Axis powers in World War II. He also goes on to say, quote, one of the few things we Japanese could be proud of, they were a formidable presence, and so were the pilots who flew them in regards to the Zero fighter planes. What do you think of this? What do you make of this quote? And is Miyazaki right to say this?
Say it for me one more time so I can fully grasp it.
Yep. So, like I said, he called the getting involved with the Axis powers foolish arrogance, which I think we can all agree is probably spot on. In regards to the Zero fighter planes that were made in the movie, he says, one of the few things that we Japanese can be proud of. They were truly a formidable presence, and so were the pilots who flew in them. So,
I think... Oh, sorry?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you take the floor. I've been talking a bit.
Well, I don't see anything wrong with the statement. I think he's already disparaged where Japan stood in on that side of the war, but I think he's also paying respect to the Japanese soldiers who laid down their lives in that war and the pinnacle of Japanese ingenuity and aviation at the time, because that was a hell of an accomplishment, and the people who lay down their lives in any side of a conflict deserve respect because they're fighting for their families.
Absolutely.
It's just why war is a terrible thing, and I will never begrudge a man for respecting people who laid down their lives for to defend their way of living as they know it.
Absolutely. I think you can see a modern example of this with all the stuff going on in the Middle East when it comes to our soldiers. I know there's a big debate constantly going on as to whether or not we should keep our troops out of the Middle East, whether the war over there was right, whether Iraq was correct, the right move to make, etc., etc. And while I see a lot of people, I'm not going to call out anyone in particular, but I do know that a lot of the dissension is from the left side of the political sphere. I know there's a lot of... I do see disrespect from time to time when it comes to the people who fight over there, with people kind of forgetting that, hey, you may not agree with the war, but can we be real here? A lot of the soldiers... if you ask any military personnel, any soldier, most of them will say they don't want to go to war. They don't want to have to fight. They will if they have to, because they signed up for it and they promised they would. But most of them don't because their friends and family and life is here. And it does strike me as odd when people want to begrudge the soldiers who fight the war and not the politicians who make the war happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on a side note, I want to give a quick shout-out to... I know we're actually going to be airing this a few months after this happened, but shout-out to John McCain for his, oh
my God,
service in Vietnam. I mean, whether you agree with him politically or not, he was a POW in Vietnam, and he went on to do a lot of good things. And at the end of his time, it sounds like he actually was trying to bridge the across the aisle and compromise with people on the opposite side of the political party spectrum. So, shout out to him. I mean, he deserves respect, man. Whether you
absolutely,
whether you agree with him or not, Trump, you gotta give him respect.
This fucking child. He wouldn't even put the flag at half-mast. Okay. Anyway, sorry.
I mean, it's not surprising, but okay. But yeah, no, I think we can all agree that he's respecting the soldiers. He's not promoting the war. There was some controversy that came up when this quote came out originally, and I thought it was weird, but I guess people misread it or something and thought he was like, "Oh yeah, the soldiers were great. The war was great." It's like, have you seen any of his any other Miyazaki film? He denounces war any chance he gets because he agrees war is a shit thing. Don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, anybody can if you throw praise to any one side of a conflict or just the participants of it, people on the other side of that conflict are going to be up in arms because it's going to seem like you're celebrating the thing that got their loved ones killed. And that's an entirely understandable reaction. But if you really read what he's saying there, I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think he did it in a very respectful way that disparaged what he thought was a horrible act of war, but honored the people that gave their lives for their country.
Absolutely. And, mad respect to Miyazaki for being able to, find that good balance with how to say it. I think
absolutely.
Okay, I got a couple more here. Wind is constantly mentioned in the film. Obviously, it serves a functional purpose with flight, but does it serve a narrative purpose? Does the wind represent or symbolize something? What do you think?
Do you mean the wind in the movie as a metaphorical concept or as the actual wind showing up and doing crazy shit?
However you want to interpret it. Because one line they drop a lot is the wind is rising. And
the wind is rising, you must try to live.
Yep. So that quote, or just the construct of wind itself, like, do you find anything that might be particularly meaningful about it, or do you think it's just wind and that's all it is?
Well, I mean, I definitely think there's a deeper connotation to it. In regards to that particular line, ever since it was originally stated, I was trying to figure out exactly like what they meant by that. I kind of spent the whole movie trying to decipher what that actually means. My best interpretation of it is that the wind represents the turmoil and like the ever-changing nature of life. And if you're not careful, of course the wind can dash your house to pieces. It can pick you up and carry you off and throw you miles from home. But in order to fly, you have to harness the wind. You have to work with it, and you have to maneuver it to fly higher in the sky than you ever thought possible. So when they keep referencing that the wind is rising, it's like a lot of things are changing, but the determined person can use that to go after their dreams, as opposed to sit there and let things happen to them. So that was my takeaway.
So I'm going to add to that a little bit here, but I like what you're saying. I think that the wind there's two moments that I think stand out. First off is just the wind in regards to Jiro making planes, and the wind in regards to his relationship with Nahoko. Starting with the planes, I think the wind represents an intangible force, kind of like imagination, which carries him through the story, kind of like the wind carrying the planes. Mm-hmm. And that imagination carries him forward into making his dream come to reality, which is what this film's all about, is the idea of making your dreams into reality. And that such imagination is needed to accomplish something as fantastical as making these amazing-ass planes. And then, in regards to Nahoko, she even mentions it herself near the end, because she says at some point that the wind brought him to her. So I think there's some symbolism there as well, like the wind is like this this animating connecting force that kind of draws these two people together a little bit.
I like that. I like that interpretation too.
I have some fun with this stuff. Alright, let's see. I've got one more before I get to my big one. Let's see, hang on here. Actually, it kind of ties into that a little bit. Okay, I'll just go straight to my big one. Do you feel there's a similarity between Jiro's craft for planes and Miyazaki's craft for film?
Ooh.
Do you want me to read what I've researched so you can kind of hear where I'm coming from?
Yeah, no. You sound like there's more to it. Let me hear where you're at.
So I've done a little research about this because I was very curious as to where the deeper meaning of this film might be. And I found something on the Nerdist that I think really hits at home, so nerdist.com for those who are interested. Jiro's passion for creating the best flying machines he can is tempered by the sorrow he feels for how people use them, which Miyazaki clearly felt about his own films, the critical and popular communities treating them more as commodities or pieces to study rather than stories of actual beauty to enjoy. Further evidence to me of Miyazaki's kinship with Jiro and Jiro Horikoshi is the casting of the original Japanese track is Hideaki Anno as the voice of the character. The name should be familiar to anime fans, as since Anno was the creator and writer of one of the seminal works in the medium, Neon Genesis Evangelion. Anno has remade the story 3 different times at this point because of the fans demanding for different endings and more of what they love about it. Miyazaki and Anno both are, in a way, slaves to their success and have had their visions taken away by others. Similar to how Jiro's planes were taken away by others at the end of this film.
Wow.
When you see that connection, it's kind of hard to ignore.
It's also really heartbreaking. Like if Miyazaki has that relationship with his art, I mean, like, because absolutely 100% the Studio Ghibli films are pieces of art to be enjoyed and to be passed on 100%. But I wouldn't think that that it takes away from that experience to delve deeper into it and like actually study the things going on behind it. I would feel like that's just a testament to how well crafted his art is.
I agree, but I think what he might be getting at with this is more that he built this for people to appreciate and love, and he built it to just kind of be a thing to admire. And I think it's kind of like if someone was going to go digging around in let's say you built a house and you had people come over to, like, just hang out and appreciate the house you made. But the problem is he has people coming over who want to inspect every corner of the house. They want to tear it apart to find out what works and what doesn't. And I think that's sort of what the anxiety Miyazaki might be feeling is coming from, is that he's tired of people ripping apart his house to see how it works. He just wants them to come over and have a damn drink with him. That's all he wants.
That's understandable. I suppose that's understandable. I mean, when you take a very critical eye to every one of the works, then yeah, I can definitely see where he's coming from there. With Hideaki Anno, I 100% agree with that analysis because fans of Evangelion are oh boy, that's a trip. Well, I have a friend who's a very big Eva fan, and I still can't wrap my head around it. But yeah, no, he could talk for hours at Anno's tumultuous relationship with fans of his work.
I think the only way you could have made this point any more poignant is if you had cast George Lucas as one of the characters in the English dub. Because I don't think there's anyone out there, at least in Western cinema, who's had more shit thrown at him for changing shit in his films than Lucas himself.
Yeah.
And after reading this and thinking about it, I don't care for the prequels. I probably never will. I like aspects of them, but I'll never love them as much as I like some of the other ones. But I'm not going to disrespect the man. He tried his damnedest. Things didn't work out, and yeah, I feel bad for Lucas and all the shit he's put up with all these years.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, originally it was his story, and when he started unveiling more stuff that he had planned out for it, people weren't digging it as much, and so it got changed. So yeah, no, Lucas could definitely be one of the like a big like proponent of this type of story. How you work so hard to take a dream that you have and put it out in the world, but once it's in the world, other people get their hands on it. And that's when it starts to change. That's when it starts to get taken away from you and used or shaped into things that you didn't dream, because it's no longer just yours. It doesn't just exist in your head anymore. Now other people can interact with it, which is kind of the double-edged sword for like portion of making your dreams into reality.
Absolutely. So I'm going to level with you here real quick. So I spoke to Amanda about this the other day in regards to myself, actually. So as you know, Ryan, and as some of the audience people might know, I partake in writing my own books. My goal is to eventually get them published, but I'm going to level with you, Ryan. I have a fear of success, I think. And looking at Miyazaki's situation, looking at Lucas's situation, looking at any successful writer out there, part of me is looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, I want these books to succeed and be like loved by people, but I'm afraid of what will happen when they, become this big, if they become this big mainstream thing. Being called out to book signings, having to keep up with people on social media to kind of answer questions and shit, or just having people pick apart every little detail to find whatever they can. Like, I still want to publish, I still want to make this happen, but there's a fear of success behind all that a little bit that makes me nervous of what's going to happen when this book ever gets released.
Yeah, so watching this movie didn't really help with that, did it?
It did and it didn't. Like, despite the fact Miyazaki has those anxieties, he still makes shit and he still puts it out there. And it's a brave thing for him to do. It's a brave thing for any artist to do, honestly. You're putting yourself on display for the world to see and kind of judge what you put out there. So I think at the end of the day, I'm still going to definitely strive for that. It's just one of those things where it's like, this does kind of help reinforce that notion of, just the world can kind of take away what you've built, what you've created, what you spent your life trying to put together, and just tear it away from you and do all sorts of horrible things with it. And that's a negative view to look at the world, because there are some people who do positive things with art, with the stuff you've made. And I'm going to be optimistic and hope that is what stays true. And fingers crossed that at the end of the day, the book I write comes out and people love it, and I can continue enjoying making more of them.
Yeah, no, I mean, because you can spend your time looking at the negative possibilities of it, but at the end of the day, when you make your dream into a reality, you're always going to find a lot of people who dreamed similar things or who had other similar desires in their hearts, and hearing it expressed by somebody else, it brings validation, it brings a lot of just joy and positivity to the world. So yeah, you're gonna have people kind of pouring over your work and looking to get every nook and cranny out of it, but I think that is a testament to how much people are enjoying it and how much they're interacting with it. You don't spend hours on hours poring over a book looking for stuff because you hate it, So absolutely. I think while that's definitely a concern, I don't think it trumps the joy of A, creating, and B, having people that like your creation that you can also connect with on a personal level.
Absolutely. It's just one of those things I'm going to have to, come to grips with once I get to that point of publishing. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, my final question, which kind of relates to this, and I think we may have touched on it a bit, but I'm going to throw it out there in case there's anything else you wanted to add. Can you blame the creator of something when others use it for ill? Or does the blame always fall on those who abuse the creation? Can you think of any modern-day examples? Can you even blame the creation itself? This is a kind of loaded question, I know.
I would say for the majority of things created, the fault lies with the I'm sorry, I was just trying to word it. I would say for the majority of things, the fault lies with the people who use it. Because I don't blame a sword for taking a life. I blame the person wielding that sword for taking that life. A sword can be used to defend someone's home from invaders. A sword can be used to commit murder.
I like how you're going with sword over guns, but go on.
Yeah. I'm a fantasy head. I'm a fantasy nut, and when I think of weapon analogies, I think of a sword.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
But I don't blame the person who invented swords. I don't blame the sword itself because it has no control over how it's being used. Now, granted, this is entirely, when you're talking about a sword or any weapon, it's made with the express purpose of doing somebody bodily harm. When you get to other items created not for the purpose of killing or causing people harm, but are then bent towards that purpose, I think it's absolutely 100% the person that is using it as opposed to the creator. I mean, wasn't it William Nobel who created dynamite for mining purposes?
And now it's used as a weapon and terrorism.
Now it's used for weapons and what have you. He created it with an actual viable use in mind, and then somebody said, "Hey, you know what? This shit blows up people much easier than it blows up rock," and it became a weapon.
I mean,
I don't blame
you could say the same thing about the internet.
Yeah, you could absolutely say the same thing about the internet or planes. It stems from a person's desire to fly across the sky, and people bent it towards weaponry.
I think there's a level of context that's needed for sure. Because I agree with you. I think if someone makes a gun or a sword or a car or anything like that, you can't blame the item itself. It has no autonomy. It can't do anything. Likewise, the person who made it for the express purpose of what it was originally built for. Guy who made the gun because he wanted people to hunt. Guy made a sword so people could defend their homes. Guy made the car so you can get to work and shit. He didn't expect someone to be running people over on purpose. They didn't expect you to stab people, just to steal money and shit. No one expected these shooting sprees to happen, but here we are now. And while this is a more fictional example, another context to look at is Jurassic Park. He created all those dinosaurs, but the end result was absolute chaos. Do you blame the guys who made the dinosaurs? Do you blame the dinosaurs, or do you blame the people who didn't know what they were doing when handling the dinosaurs? I feel like that's a much harder one to answer, really, because A, it's fictional, but B, there's a little bit of blame almost anywhere.
I blame Dennis Nedry. That's why.
Absolutely. He's the main problem overall.
He is the fucking villain.
But, no, I'm just saying, like, there's some context to it that I think needs to be explored before you can assign blame. But 9 times out of 10, someone abusing an item or a creature or a thing in general for a purpose beyond its intended purpose is where you're going to put the blame at. Now, granted, using something outside of its normal use can sometimes bring beneficial, positive results. Not always, but sometimes it can. So, just one of those things, it's like I said, it's all about context.
I mean, innovation is a fantastic thing. Like, to take an idea and find a new application for it, that's human history. That's human ingenuity. That's where a lot of our biggest advancements have come from. And I'll never thumb my nose at that. But when you take things that weren't made to cause harm and turn them to harmful purposes, it's kind of a shitty thing to do. And I don't think we need more things in this world that can harm people.
Man, this got deeper than I thought it was going to get, but this is a really good conversation. I like where this went.
I thought you wanted this to go, like, with that last question. I'm like, oh, you want to get deep.
No, I did. I just didn't know how far I was going to go. But no, this is really refreshing. I like when we can get these deep conversations rolling. So that's all I have for discussion questions. If you want to send us questions or give us comments, next week is the final episode of the Studio Ghibli Summerslam. I know, it's almost December. Can you believe it? If you want to tell us your favorite Ghibli movies, we are going to read them on the podcast, along with our favorites probably, near the end of it. So please, submit your suggestions, any other questions or comments as well, to Facebook, Twitter, or Tumblr pages that we're on, or that one lovely email. Ryan, could you read off that lovely email?
That is RyanWillDieAlone@gmail. I mean, that is evacstation@gmail.com.
You heard it right there, folks. And before we get out of here, I'm going to skip trivia because obviously we're running way on time. We're going to go straight to our review of the film, where we discuss what the movie ranks. Gold, silver, platinum, dirt, shit, stone. Probably not going to be one of those. If you want to find out what any of those mean, please go to the links down below. There's a link to our Patreon page, which has a post that explains all the rankings and what they mean. So that way, if you get mad that we didn't rank your favorite films the way you wanted to, you'll know why we ranked them the way we did. And now, on to The Wind Rises. Ryan, I know where I'm putting this at, without question.
I know where you're putting this.
So I'll get out of the way now, because I don't want to... I was going to platinum all the way. This is a contender for my favorite film of Ghibli. I don't know if it is. I have to think about it until next week. But it's a platinum without question. The historical context, the alternate side of history, the animation, the story, the voice acting, everything on this was on all cylinders. And definitely it's one of those films I think everyone would definitely benefit watching from. So, platinum for me all the way. Where are you sitting on this one?
So, I would personally, as a personal pick, I would give it a gold. I love it. I thought it was a fantastic movie. I thought it had a lot of historical context, and I thought it had a lot to say about human innovation and about inspiration and being able to chase your dreams. I thought that was all really, really, really good stuff. The only reason that I don't personally think it's a platinum, and I will go with you if on the overall ranking and call it a platinum. For me, it's just shy of platinum because the only movie that had this idea of larger context, larger ideas being discussed and historical setting was Grave of the Fireflies, and Grave of the Fireflies hit me 10 times harder than this movie did.
I absolutely understand that.
Why I don't want to give it a platinum. And I completely understand that it's entirely just a personal preference because the historical stuff didn't click with me as hard as it did for you.
Well, it's not only that too, but there's also the whole creator aspect too. Like I totally jive on the whole losing your control of your creations once they're made, and to me that resonates with me a lot too. Like the history thing's definitely what suckered me in, but that extra context there, that's what kind of nailed it for me personally, and that's why I can't put it any lower myself. But I totally respect putting that goal for you. So
I got you. It's why I think you. I remember you ranked. It wasn't only yesterday. Whisper of the Heart.
Yes.
You ranked Whisper of the Heart that high because of the idea of it speaking towards your woes as a creator as well.
Absolutely.
I completely understand.
And that's the thing about these rankings, everybody. They can be a little different because we don't have to agree. That's the beauty of it. We can each have our own different ranking, and yeah. I don't think we've strayed too far from each other for the most part. We're usually one off if we ever differ. I don't think there's ever been a polar opposite thing yet. I really hope.
No, it's shit. It's fucking shit. No, it's not. I can't say that with a straight face. This is a masterful film. I can't even pretend.
Now I'm looking forward to a day when we disagree on something pretty hard, but I don't think it's going to happen just yet. But we might get there with the Shyamalan films. We'll see.
Wait, didn't we disagree on We disagreed a couple of times in Marvel.
In which one? Oh, in Marvel, yeah, but we didn't have the rankings like we do now. It's a little different. It's a little different. That one.
It is. But I remember we got into a real good debate on one of them. I can't remember which one.
Yeah, there's a couple I can recall. I think I know Civil War we debated for a little bit.
Civil War we debated. Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy we debated on. Open Wow.
Yeah, we had some fun ones there. So next week we will be doing the final film of Studio Ghibli, When Marnie Was There. Until 2020, when the next film comes out for Ghibli, which should be Miyazaki's last film, unless he decides to come out of retirement a 7th time. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. And Ryan, next week we will have that. We will discuss our favorite moments and films of Ghibli and see where it all takes us. How, after 22 films, we feel about everything.
I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah, I think it's been a fun ride, and I'm looking... As fun as it's been, I'm looking forward to doing something different.
Yeah, we did a 22-movie run, dude. It's a lot.
Well, I mean, if you consider the fact we have 3 more Marvel films before the end of next year to cover, that'll be catching up pretty soon, too.
Fair.
So thank you, everybody, for listening, and we hope you join us for one more Ghibli film. And if not, well, then we'll see you for the holidays, because those are coming up here really soon, too. We had some fun movies planned for that as well. Until then...
Right after SummerSlam, the holidays.
I know, right? It's so fucking weird. So thank you all for joining, and we'll see you after the credits.
Bye.